Karl Benz was the son of an engine driver, born in Karlsruhe in Germany in the 1840s. After being apprenticed to a local foundry, he eventually started up his own little engineering workshop in Mannheim.
The development of the first automobiles can be traced back to the 19th century in the 1800s. And if you take a look at what cars looked like back then and how they do now, you would probably say that automakers have done a pretty good job. So how did it all start, and who built the first car, and what was his life like? So in this video, I'll be taking you back in time to a small workshop in Mannheim, Germany, owned by a mechanic, Karl Benz, and his wife, Bertha Benz, an interesting character in this story, and how they changed the world of transport. This video is the first of my 2-episode series centered on the first automobile, and to understand this story well, we will look at the lives of Karl and Bertha separately, then compare them and see how they relate to the car. The first episode is based on Karl, so if this video looks interesting to you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. So without wasting time, let's get into this video. Karl Friedrich Benz was born on November 25, 1844 in Marburg, Germany. His parents were Johann George Benz and Josephine Valiant. Johann was a locomotive driver and engineer, so it's obvious they weren't really wealthy to afford luxury. At the age of 2, Karl's father died of pneumonia, and he was given the name Benz in memory of his father. His mother, Josephine, though near poverty, tried so hard to send Karl to a good school, and Karl was a prestigious student and excelled in his academics. It was clear from a young age that he had a very special place in his heart for machines. He originally wanted to pursue a career as a locksmith. He would eventually change his mind to follow his father's footsteps as an engineer. His talents would soon unfold with time. He got into the University of Karlsruhe at 15 to study mechanical engineering, and soon graduated at 19. I can't really say much about Karl's social life, but I do know he later meets a pretty girl named Bertha on a train who becomes his wife. Now this was a time in the German economy where people still used carriages with horses, and the need for innovation in transport was just there, waiting for someone to take the initiative, and this person would eventually be Karl. At this time, he had a bicycle which was his means of transport, and this bike made him fantasize of a mechanized vehicle, a horseless carriage in quotes. After all, he was a mechanical engineer. Karl's job experience after the university wasn't satisfying, as he bounced in and out of jobs while gaining experience as a mechanical engineer, but he needed something new and exciting. He set up a shop with an associate, August Ritter, and started their auto business, but things didn't go as planned, as their workshop was a total failure. By this time, Karl was a well-built young man in his 20s, and this was probably the reason he got the attention of a young, beautiful lady, Bertha Ringer, who was on the same train coach with Karl and her mother during a trip. He got to talk about his idea for a mechanized vehicle without horses while on a trip with Bertha, and this obviously made her pick interest in him. There was just a spark. And I say this because they become good friends until 2 years later when she becomes his wife. Now, Bertha is a pretty interesting character in this story and played a very important role in the history of the automobile, and I'll definitely produce another video just about her courage and skills soon. But let's get back to the story. Bertha became one of Karl's early investors, as it is said that Karl used the money from Bertha's dowry to set up his personal workshop. Yes, dowry is paid in Germany by females. He was married to Bertha, and she was very much interested in his work. She was known for helping him out in the workshop, unlike regular women. Bertha was a wild thinker too. Karl and Bertha later have 5 children, and Karl, now working on his own, was set to build the automobile of his dreams. And in 1885, Karl built the first mechanical vehicle called the Motorwagen. It had 3 wheels and was driven by a 4-stroke internal combustion engine. And this car was a big far cry from what we have today, but it was an engineering marvel. At the time of his invention, other inventors and engine makers already had their own versions of a horseless carriage, in quotes, under construction. But Ben's work stood out because his car was built purposely with the engine, and other car makers just simply built an engine and put it onto an existing carriage or cart, and this was inefficient. Benz was granted the patent number 37435 for his automobile on January 29, 1886. The Motorwagen was definitely an awesome invention for its time, but it was far from perfect. It had so many flaws, and this made Karl, being a perfectionist, not to publicize his invention out of fear. He only used the car locally on the streets, and he was even once banned by the mayor from using such an automobile. Bertha, on the other hand, believed in her husband's work probably more than he did, and this made her take this car on a 60-mile drive to see her parents with her 2 sons. This 60-mile drive would change the world and people's perspective of women and automobiles forever. But like I said, this is a story for a video another day. This incident would make Karl to see his work from a different perspective. He was now confident in himself and his invention, thanks to Bertha, his wife. Karl produced very awesome car models and eventually improved. Later he expanded the company and joined forces with Gottlieb Daimler, another German engineer, to build the Mercedes-Benz company. Today, Mercedes-Benz is one of the best luxury selling brands in the world. Their manufacturing plants spread across 17 countries in 5 continents, with a market cap of over $68 billion, making over $176 billion in revenue and $1.5 billion in profit. Here are 5 fun facts about Mercedes-Benz, the company, and Karl Benz you didn't know. The name Mercedes is the name of a young girl, Mercedes Jelinek, whose father was a business partner of Daimler and Karl. He requested that the car be named after his daughter as one of their early investors. Bertha Benz was not only phenomenal, she became the first woman or person in history to drive a car over a long distance. Karl Benz was the first person to ever have a driver's license. Yes, if you think you're absolutely phenomenal, then check out Karl Benz. He built the first car and had a license for it first. The company logo signifies air, land and water, 3 of the 4 natural elements. Before they got into the business of making luxury cars, they actually made sports cars to compete in races, and their cars were often the best. One cannot tell the story of the first car without telling the story of Karl and Bertha, his wife. In his memoir, Karl wrote, "Only one person stood by me during those times when I was heading towards the abyss. That was my wife. It was her courage that enabled me to find hope." It's often fascinating how the actions of those in the past affect our lives. So next time your God tells you to take that bold step, take it, and you probably will bring about great change. So there you have it. From being an ambitious young engineer to a courageous couple, this couple changed the automotive industry and the world forever. Subscribe for more and tell me if you want to hear the story of Bertha Benz in another episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.